Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this out there on the World Wide Web. This is Jeremy Geelan for SYS-CON TV. We're here at 10th Cloud Expo in a lovely quiet lull between hours on the show floor. I have with me Anand Raman. I think I can get it right each time. Hi Anand, good to see you.
Good afternoon, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm going to be better when I hear what Impetus is up to right now. I think it's going well for you guys.
Absolutely. It's going extremely well for us. So Impetus is a software services company and fairly focused on big data practice. So what we're doing for enterprise organizations is helping them create big data technology strategies, architectures, and helping them come up with solutions for their very critical business challenges involving data.
And you were involved in this really before we were. You were doing big data and we're only just catching up. So you're a pretty pioneering company. You saw this coming, you knew the data sets are getting larger, and you got ahead of it.
Fortunately, yes, we sensed this. We actually started on our big data practice in 2008. It morphed into a big data practice. We started off as a high-performance computing practice, where we started looking at how do you really speed up performance of applications, whether it be through hardware or through software. And we quickly found out that as hardware was getting cheaper, data was becoming a problem for many companies, and they were collecting tons of data, and the Facebooks and MySpaces didn't help because they were helping all these companies collect data. So the challenge for enterprises was how do we use this data and come up with better analytics. And as we started looking at the marketplace, every customer of ours was picking data not only from social networks, but they were starting to monetize or starting to monitor clickstream data, starting to monitor log data, starting to monitor all other third-party data. So the data was expanding from all possible corners, and our clients had no way to get it all together and say, what does it make sense, if it makes sense or not, or how much of it does make sense, and what do we have to learn from this data? I think that's the realization that many of these enterprise companies have seen in the past, I would say 2 years, and have started to realize that there is a lot to learn from this data that they were all ignoring for so many years.
So it sounds to me like Impetus Technologies has almost been evangelizing around the big data meme, because you're saying to people, do you have any clue how much value there is that you could unlock if you follow our advice?
Fantastic way of putting it. Yes, we have been evangelizing in the big data space, both from a technical community as well as from an infrastructure perspective, doing some very, very interesting things for some very large organizations. So we're very, very proud of that. We're actually cognizant of what's going on. We've contributed a lot to the open source community in the big data space. So people and developers who are trying to solve some solutions have a much easier way to solve those problems today. For them, and we're getting into different verticals and trying to apply the learnings that we have across the industry. So we're helping telcos come up with some very nice ways of network optimization, getting data out for 3-year, 4-year database on how consumers have been doing. We've been working with some financial services companies and say, hey, you have X million consumers, you have X million merchants. How do you relate? How do you empathize with your smaller merchants and give them much more value because they process some of your businesses?
So I'm sensing that Impetus is very proactive in this market. You're not just sitting and waiting. You're out there creating the business by the sound of it.
Our customers want us to do that, very frankly, and this is a problem where you have to take it on proactively, not reactively, because people have been sitting on this data for so long, and if we still be reactive, I think they would have lost their business. So it's very important and as we talk to our customers, everybody in every industry, they're looking at, say, hey, how can we proactively do something with data? And Impetus is probably the only services company that's really going on saying, this is the way you can treat your data. This is the way you should treat your data. These are some things you can get out of your data. So we're taking a proactive approach, which is helping companies to take a proactive approach and going to their business groups and saying, hey, this is how we can help you.
Is there one vertical in particular, Anand, that you sense as a company the value of this approach, and you feel that the vertical hasn't quite gotten it yet, and you sort of want to set your capital and say, come on, we need to get these guys on board?
There are multiple verticals, I would say. Let me start with the vertical that's consuming most of this, which is financials. So we see financial is probably the only one which is really taking up big data aggressively across all their business groups. Media is another one. To answer your question, I think the industry or the vertical that needs biggest promotion is healthcare.
Yeah.
And we've started dabbling in that space a little bit. We've starting to come up with some options, and we're starting to talk about that. But I think healthcare is going to be the next major industry which will really get a huge boost from the big data space.
Well, I can certainly concur with that because I'm hearing that from multiple sources. Let's imagine somebody wants to connect with Impetus. How should they get hold of you? What's the web domain?
Sure. We are at www.impetus.com. To make it easier for you to get to our big data, go to bigdata.impetus.com. You'll find a lot of information on what we're doing. You can download white papers from our website and shoot us an email at bigdata@impetus.com, and we'll be happy to respond to you.
Good email address. That's simple. Thanks so much for joining us in New York, Anand, and thank you for following along. Impetus Technologies is definitely a company to watch.